Today we're going to answer the question I get asked quite a lot, and that is, what makes a good photo? And you know that moment when you look at one of your pictures and think, it's okay, but something just doesn't quite feel right. The light's fine, the subject's good, the camera did its job, yet the image just doesn't quite have that spark. I've been there myself many times, and what I've learned is there's usually a reason, or 5 of them in fact. And today we're going to work through those 5 simple elements that separate the photo that's just okay from one that really works. And more importantly, you'll learn how to recognize them in your own work so you can start shooting with intention, not just a wing and a prayer. If you're new here, this channel is all about educating, inspiring and empowering your photography journey in simple, straightforward terms. No jargon, no ego, just honest teaching and practical advice you can apply immediately. Over the years, I've helped hundreds of photographers move from feeling stuck or overwhelmed to understanding why their images work. And that's exactly what we're about to do together right now. And if you want to dig deeper into the foundations of exposure, focus and composition, after the video, grab my ebook, The 3 Essential Pillars of Good Photography. It's linked in the description and totally free when you sign up to my newsletter. So if you've ever sat there thinking, this image is okay, but something's missing, we're going to look at 5 elements that every good photo has in common. We're going to talk about exposure, color, composition, focus and story. But this isn't just a checklist, far from it. These various elements will all flow into one another and make sense as a whole. At least that's the plan. If you get your exposure right, your colors will look better. Get your color and light working together and the composition starts to feel natural. Then when your composition supports your story, sharpness and depth of field all fall into place. By the end of this video, you'll see how these 5 elements all connect like links in a chain to hold your photographs together. And you could think of these elements like the gears in a well-tuned car. If one gear slips, the whole ride feels bumpy. But if you get them all working together, suddenly everything feels smooth and effortless. So let's take the journey one gear at a time, if you know what I mean. So first up, every good photo begins with light. Exposure is the foundation of a good photograph. It's how much light you let in and how you control the balance between highlights and shadows. If you get that balance right, everything else comes together more easier. Exposure is a bit like making toast. Now bear with me. Too light and it's underdone. Too dark and it's burnt. If the light's too strong, your subject loses detail and feels harsh. Too dark and it feels murky and flat. A balanced exposure doesn't mean perfectly even light. Sometimes you want contrast or deep shadows, but the key is that you choose them on purpose and not let the camera choose for you. And I would also add that checking the histogram and not relying on the LCD screen is always a good idea. And that way you can double check you've got the exposure you want. It takes all the guesswork away. And exposure is directly linked to the next element, because when you control light, you also control color. And by the way, if you enjoy learning in this style and you'd like to be part of a friendly community where we practice, share and learn together, check out our free Photography Foundations community over on School. There's no ads and it's a safe place to ask questions, share your work and get support from other photographers all learning together. If you're interested, there's a link in the description for you and a QR code at the end. Okay, so now let's talk about color. Light affects color and color affects mood. Warm colors like orange and yellow project energy and connection. They feel like sunlight or a campfire pulling you in. Cool colors like blue and green create calm, distance and stillness, like looking across a quiet lake at dusk. Neither is better than the other, but knowing the emotion each one carries lets you choose the right feel for your photo and not just the right exposure. A good photo has color that feels natural or it's deliberately stylized in a way that tells the story better. Color is a bit like music. A few notes can sound fine on their own, but when you combine them, you either get harmony or noise. Get your white balance wrong and the image feels off, like a guitar string that's slightly out of tune. When the color feels right, the image breathes, it looks real, or intentionally surreal, but never accidental. And when your colour starts feeling balanced, your eye begins to see composition more clearly, because nothing is fighting for attention. And when light and colour are singing in the same tune, your next decision, composition, starts to feel a lot more natural. Composition is basically how you arrange everything inside the frame. It's the architecture of your image. Think of it like staging a play. The lights are on, the colours set the mood, but if your actors are standing in random places, the story falls apart. Your job as a photographer is to direct the scene. The rule of thirds, leading lines and framing are your stage marks. They tell the audience where to look. And if you'd like a deeper dive into composition, I'll add a link in the description to my Composition Demystified video. The best compositions don't yell, "Look at me." They quietly guide your attention. And when you can control where the eye goes, the next step is deciding what deserves to be in sharp focus. Focus is your conductor's baton. It tells the audience exactly where to listen. Everything else in the frame can play supporting notes, but one element needs to lead. A shallow depth of field is like a spotlight on your main actor. A deep depth of field is like switching on all the house lights so you see the whole set. Again, neither is right or wrong. They just tell different stories. And you would typically use a shallow depth of field for a portrait and a deep one for a landscape. The key is intention. If you choose it, it's creative. If it happened by accident, it's a mistake. And once you direct and focus intentionally, everything you've done, light, colour, composition, starts to build towards one thing: story. This is the heart of it. You can have perfect light, beautiful colour, a clean composition and pin-sharp focus. But if there's no intention, it still feels empty, like a Hollywood movie that's purely about the special effects. Story is where the magic really happens. Story is the why behind every good photo. You could think of it like cooking. The best dishes aren't just about the ingredients, they're about how they come together to create a flavour you remember and really enjoy. And I'll bet you can recommend restaurants you'd go back to and those you'd steer clear of. And a technically perfect photo without story is like a plate of food that looks amazing but tastes like nothing. The bottom line is this: an image with a good story wins every time because it connects. So when light, colour, composition and focus all serve your story, that's when the image feels complete. Now, take a look at this image of mine. There's a half decent story. I'm happy with the exposure and the composition, and it got some decent feedback. But there is something missing. And it wasn't until a very close and trusted friend made a suggestion that I realised what was missing, and I had a why didn't I think at that moment. After doing some research and checking out the amazing work of Scott Deuser, an incredible concert photographer, I saw what it was. Can you see the detail I missed out? Big professional concerts generally have an individual spotlight on the drummer like this one right here. And I think that spotlight makes all the difference. So basically, I should have done my research before we set up in the studio. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I read and respond to everyone. So let's quickly recap what we've covered today. Exposure, that's your basic foundation. Colour, the mood or vibe you want to set. Composition is the architecture of your image. Focus is how you direct the viewer's eye. And story is the whole purpose of your image. When one of them is missing, it's like a song with a duff note. The audience might not know why, but they can feel it's off. And once you start seeing your photos like this, everything changes. You'll know why something works and how to fix it when it doesn't. And if you're still here, how about a bonus that can make a huge difference to your growth as a photographer? Photography is a solo craft, but improvement is a team sport. If you're shooting alone, editing alone, and wondering if you're getting any better, that's like trying to learn guitar with ear defenders on. You're playing, but you can't hear how you sound. And that's exactly why I created our Photography Foundations community over on School. It's a safe, supportive place where you can share your images and get honest feedback and learn alongside others who care as much about improving as you do. We run photo challenges, feedback circles and discussions that help you grow, not by guesswork, but by connection. So if you've watched this far, that's your invitation. It's free to join, so come check it out. I'm sure you'll love it. The link's in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen here. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like, it really helps others find the channel. And if you enjoy learning photography in simple, straightforward terms, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Every great photo starts with intention, so go out, use these 5 elements and keep making photography simple, inspiring and fun. Thanks so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.